The anime starts with Tanjiro Kamado loading a basket of charcoal on his back. As he does, his mother calls out, worried about his safety due to the heavy snowfall. Tanjiro reassures her, explaining that he wants to sell as much as possible so his family can eat well for New Year. His younger siblings want to join him, but their mother insists they stay home, as he will walk faster than they can. Tanjiro comforts them, promising to spend time with them when he returns. Tanjiro then sees his younger brother, Takeo, and asks him to chop firewood. Takeo is annoyed he can't go with Tanjiro, who pats his head to reassure him, much to Takeo's annoyance and the family's amusement. Before leaving, Tanjiro meets his sister Nezuko, who is carrying their youngest sibling, Rokuta. She tells him they look up to him since their father's death. Wishing him luck, Tanjiro reflects on their tough life, noting how quickly things can change. In town, Tanjiro starts selling charcoal and is thanked by many for his past kindnesses. He hears a young man being accused of breaking a plate and uses his sharp sense of smell to determine a cat broke it, not the man. Later, another person asks for his help with heavy luggage. As night falls and his basket is empty, Tanjiro heads home. An elderly neighbor warns him not to enter the mountain at night because demons are about. Despite Tanjiro's confidence in his sense of smell, the man insists he stay at his house. During dinner, Tanjiro asks about demons and learns they are nocturnal creatures that devour humans. Saburo, the neighbor, explains that demon slayers protect people from demons. Tanjiro feels sorry for Saburo, who lost his family to demons, and promises to bring his siblings next time to comfort him. At dawn, Tanjiro leaves Saburo's house and smells blood as he nears his home. He finds his sister Nezuko covered in blood, holding Rokuta. Rushing inside, he discovers the rest of his family dead. Desperate, he carries Nezuko, the only one still warm, through the snow, hoping to find help. As he struggles, Nezuko starts to move and attacks him, revealing she has become a demon. Tanjiro defends himself by jamming a hatchet handle in her mouth and recalls Saburo's warning about demons. He realizes she is a demon, but believes she didn't kill their family, as he had noticed another scent. Nezuko, now larger and stronger, attacks him, but stops when he pleads with her not to be a demon. She begins to cry and calms down. Suddenly, a young man with a sword appears and attacks. Tanjiro pushes Nezuko away, confusing the swordsman. The man's blade nearly hits Tanjiro, the force knocking them both back. The swordsman, seeing the kanji for destroy demons on his blade, asks why Tanjiro is protecting a demon. Tanjiro explains that Nezuko is his sister. Tanjiro witnesses the swordsman swiftly grabbing and restraining Nezuko, revealing his intention to decapitate her. Tanjiro, however, suggests there might be another culprit involved in his family's tragedy and questions how Nezuko transformed into a demon. Despite Tanjiro's plea that Nezuko doesn't harm humans, the swordsman remains skeptical due to her recent attack. Tanjiro, desperate to save his sister, kneels and pleads with the swordsman, recalling memories of his lost family. The swordsman rebukes him, criticizing his weakness and doubting the possibility of reversing Nezuko's transformation. He emphasizes that Tanjiro's failures led to Nezuko's capture and could have resulted in their deaths. As Tanjiro cries, the swordsman silently urges him not to despair, but to channel his rage into action. He wounds Nezuko, provoking Tanjiro to attack emotionally, but the swordsman easily subdues him. However, impressed by Tanjiro's determination, he decides to spare Nezuko after witnessing her protecting Tanjiro. The swordsman advises Tanjiro to seek out Sakonji Urokodaki for guidance and warns against exposing Nezuko to sunlight. After burying his family, Tanjiro sets out with Nezuko, following the swordsman's instructions. As Tanjiro heads to Mount Sagiri, he asks a farmer nearby if he can borrow his basket, along with some straw and bamboo to fix it. Despite the farmer's insistence that it's okay to take it without payment since it's damaged, Tanjiro persists in wanting to pay. Frustrated, the farmer tells Tanjiro to take it for free, but Tanjiro presses coins into his hand and runs off. Tanjiro then finds Nezuko in a nearby tunnel, hiding from the sunlight. After repairing the basket, he asks if she can fit inside, speaking slowly as he's unsure if she understands him. Once she shrinks to fit, Tanjiro straps the basket on his back and continues his journey, seeking directions from a woman nearby who warns him about recent disappearances and advises him to be cautious. At nightfall, Tanjiro and Nezuko come across a temple in the woods and smell blood. Upon entering, they encounter a demon feasting on corpses. The demon warns Tanjiro to stay away, but Tanjiro is shocked by the scene. As he questions whether they're both human, the demon attacks, showcasing his regeneration abilities. Nezuko fights back despite the blood smell, and a fierce battle ensues, resulting in the demon's head being pinned down. Later, at a cliff's edge, Tanjiro saves Nezuko from falling and grapples with the demon's body, ultimately sending them both over the edge. Tanjiro prepares to kill the unconscious demon head, but a man intervenes, guiding him to use a rock instead. The demon wakes up and tries to grab Tanjiro, but the sunrise burns him, causing him to disintegrate. Relieved to find Nezuko safe, the temple's dead are buried, and Tanjiro meets Sakonji Urokodaki, who questions Tanjiro's readiness to handle Nezuko if she harms someone. Shocked, Tanjiro is slapped for his slow response and is warned by Sakonji about the consequences of traveling with a demon. Tanjiro acknowledges the danger and agrees to be tested by carrying Nezuko and following Sakonji. In the middle of the day, Tanjiro follows after Sakonji, who walks steadily ahead. Tanjiro wonders about Sakonji's age and how he manages to move so quickly and quietly, struggling to keep up. He apologizes to Nezuko, who is jostled in her basket as he runs, asking her to be patient and believing patience is all she knows. He remembers seeing Nezuko mend her torn kimono instead of buying a new one so her siblings could eat. This memory brings tears to Tanjiro's eyes, and he promises to fulfill his hopes for his siblings through Nezuko now. As the sun sets, Tanjiro reaches Sakonji's house at the mountain's base, exhausted. He asks if he passed the test, and Sakonji only says the test will start now as they climb the mountain, startling Tanjiro. With Nezuko safe and asleep, Sakonji and Tanjiro begin their ascent. Tanjiro still feels the strain of his run and becomes dizzy. Suddenly, Sakonji stops and tells Tanjiro to descend the mountain before dawn, then disappears. Despite his initial shock, Tanjiro believes he can use his sense of smell to descend before daybreak. However, he encounters traps on the mountain, making it difficult to proceed without getting hurt. The thin air also makes it hard for him to breathe. Tanjiro takes a deep breath to steady himself and identifies a clear path down, avoiding most traps. Despite getting injured by a trap without a human scent, Tanjiro pushes on for Nezuko's sake. As day breaks, Tanjiro collapses at Sakonji's doorstep, murmuring, "I made it back down," before passing out. Sakonji, witnessing Tanjiro's success, remembers a letter from Giyu, apologizing for the sudden request to train someone, but expressing confidence in Tanjiro's potential as a demon slayer due to his bravery. Giyu believes Nezuko won't harm humans and mentions Tanjiro's keen sense of smell, asking Sakonji to train him in swordsmanship. Accepting Tanjiro as his student, Sakonji sees the exhausted and injured boy with newfound determination. Before setting off on his journey to become a demon slayer, Tanjiro creates a journal to record his training for Nezuko, who is still asleep. As he anxiously gazes at her, Sakonji informs him that his training is about to commence. He explains that the Demon Slayer Corps consists of numerous members and has been active since ancient times, despite lacking recognition from the Japanese government. Sakonji proceeds to educate Tanjiro about demons. Their origins are uncertain, but they possess formidable physical abilities and remarkable regenerative powers. Some demons can alter their forms, while others wield entirely different abilities. The only means of killing them is through sunlight or specialized swords. Despite their slow regeneration and higher mortality, humanity persists in combating demons to safeguard others. As one of many trainers, Sakonji will guide Tanjiro along his unique path to strength using the mountain. He emphasizes the necessity of attending the final selection on Mount Fujikasan to become a demon slayer, with Tanjiro's suitability for entry resting solely on Sakonji's judgment. After days of rigorous descent from the mountain, Tanjiro gains the ability to evade most hidden traps, thanks to his increased strength and heightened scent detection. However, the traps become progressively more perilous, with Sakonji introducing ones rigged with knives and spikes. Despite being armed with a sword for simulated combat, Tanjiro's movements falter, leading to him being ensnared by traps again. Over the following days, Tanjiro tirelessly practices swordsmanship under Sakonji's demanding tutelage. Tanjiro learns about sword mechanics, understanding the blade's strength and weaknesses. Sakonji stresses the importance of cutting with the correct force along the blade to avoid breakage, emphasizing severe consequences for mishandling the sword. In subsequent lessons, Tanjiro learns to swiftly recover in battle and charges at Sakonji, only to be effortlessly overpowered. Sakonji introduces Tanjiro to a special breathing technique, total concentration breathing, and plans to teach him the 10 forms of water breathing. However, Tanjiro struggles with the correct breathing method and the required forms, enduring Sakonji's corrective measures. Eventually, Sakonji pushes Tanjiro to become one with the water by tossing him into a cold river from a cliff. 6 months pass since Tanjiro's training began, yet Nezuko remains in slumber. Despite Sakonji's efforts to summon a doctor, no ailment afflicts her. Tanjiro fears finding her lifeless each morning, his concern for her well-being mounting daily. He completes his final climb and descent of Mount Sagiri, mastering its harsh terrain and overcoming all traps. After a year under Sakonji's tutelage, Tanjiro receives unexpected news. His training is complete. Sakonji escorts him to a forest clearing, where a massive boulder stands adorned with shide. To prove his readiness, Tanjiro must cleave it. Despite his initial failure, Tanjiro persists, recalling Sakonji's teachings and practicing tirelessly for 6 months. In his exhaustion, a mysterious swordsman, Sabito, appears and challenges Tanjiro. Overwhelmed by Sabito's skill, Tanjiro learns of his inadequacies in mastering Sakonji's techniques, especially the breathing methods. Sabito imparts wisdom, urging Tanjiro to internalize the lessons. Despite Tanjiro's frustration, Sabito emphasizes the importance of moving forward. In their ensuing duel, Tanjiro is defeated but gains insight. A girl named Makomo appears, offering guidance. She reveals her and Sabito's connection to Sakonji and teaches Tanjiro total concentration breathing, crucial for combating demons. Tanjiro grapples with the technique's intricacies but is urged to persevere by Makomo's simple directive: train relentlessly. Tanjiro diligently trains, facing Sabito repeatedly but unable to land a blow. After 6 months, they engage in a final match. Tanjiro, empowered by his determination, triumphs, unknowingly slicing the boulder instead of Sabito's mask. As Sabito and Makomo vanish, Tanjiro realizes his growth and readiness for the challenges ahead. In his final spar with Sabito, Tanjiro successfully makes the first strike, slicing Sabito's mask, which turns out to be the boulder he was meant to cut. His victory, guided by detecting the opening thread, shocks him. Sakonji, who never intended to send Tanjiro to the final selection due to the danger, is amazed by his achievement and praises him, asking him to return alive. Back at the hut, Sakonji celebrates Tanjiro's success with a large meal, indicating his training is complete and warning of upcoming hardships. Sakonji explains that demons gain strength by eating humans, with their power proportional to the number of victims. He gives Tanjiro a protective fox mask. The next morning, Tanjiro bids a tender farewell to his sleeping sister Nezuko, promising to return. Sakonji reassures him about Nezuko's safety and is surprised when Tanjiro asks him to greet the deceased Sabito and Makomo. Reaching Mount Fujikasani by nightfall, Tanjiro is awed by the wisteria flowers. At the meeting area, he finds many others his age, all aspiring to survive. Twins explain that the forest, filled with demons trapped by wisteria, is the final selection site where they must survive for 7 days to pass. On the first day, Tanjiro focuses solely on staying alive as he navigates the forest. He heads east to find sunlight, but soon detects a demon's scent. He can't locate the demon until it leaps above the trees and crashes to the ground, pushing him back. Another demon appears and attacks Tanjiro, who parries its claws but is thrown back by the force. The demons argue about who gets to kill Tanjiro, then both attack him simultaneously. Despite being knocked back, Tanjiro quickly regains his composure, breathes deeply, and uses his training. He finds the opening thread and employs water breathing, fourth form, striking tide, to kill both demons in one slash. Reflecting on his success, he recalls Sakonji's teaching about the special Nichiren swords wielded by demon slayers. Suddenly, Tanjiro is disturbed by a rotting smell and hears another applicant's terrified screams. He sees a huge, grotesque demon holding a dead applicant. As the demon devours the body, it grows stronger. The applicant tries to flee, but the demon catches him with elongated arms. Tanjiro overcomes his initial fear and uses water breathing, second form, water wheel, to sever the demon's arms, saving the applicant. The demon recognizes Tanjiro's mask and mentions another little fox, asking about the current era. Upon hearing it's the Taisho era, the demon, enraged, scratches itself in frustration, lamenting its long imprisonment by Sakonji on Mount Fujikasani 47 years ago. Tanjiro is shocked by the demon's longevity, while the saved applicant insists no demon in final selection is that old. The demon reveals it has eaten 50 applicants, including 13 of Sakonji's students. Tanjiro is horrified to learn that Sabito and Makomo, his mentors, were among the victims. The demon mocks Sakonji's warding masks, saying they never worked and led to the deaths of his students. It recounts how Makomo lost control in rage and was torn apart. Driven by anger, Tanjiro attacks, but is told by Sabito's spirit to calm down and regulate his breathing. Despite this, the demon punches Tanjiro into a tree, breaking his mask. As the demon moves to eat him, the saved applicant flees. Tanjiro regains consciousness just in time, avoiding the demon's grasp. The demon, growing multiple arms, tries to catch him, but Tanjiro slices them off while running through the forest. Realizing he must cut the demon's neck to kill it, Tanjiro declares he will stop the demon to save more lives. He leaps to avoid underground arms and charges head-on. In a final clash, Tanjiro headbutts an arm away, sprints down the demon's arm, and, empowered by deep breaths, slices through the sprouting arms. The demon, confident its neck is too tough, prepares to kill Tanjiro. However, Tanjiro uses water breathing, first form, water surface slash, to decapitate the demon, ending the fight. Tanjiro confronts the hand demon, responsible for killing many, including Sakonji Urokodaki's students. Using his forehead and total concentration breathing, he decapitates the demon with water breathing, first form, water surface slash. The dying demon recalls being captured by Sakonji, and seeing his image in Tanjiro, feels shock. In the afterlife, the demon regrets devouring his brother. Sensing its sadness, Tanjiro holds its hand and prays for its peaceful reincarnation. The demon sees light and is reborn, while Sakonji's students' souls find peace. Tanjiro searches Mount Fujikasane for a way to return someone to human form, but is forced to kill attacking demons. Exhausted, he returns to the shrine with the other final selection survivors, only 4 of whom remain. The twins congratulate them and explain their new ranks and tasks. Despite tension with another survivor, they select their sword oars. Elsewhere, a man is pleased to learn 5 survived and wonders about their futures. Tanjiro, exhausted from battling demons, returns to Sakonji's hut, disheartened by their refusal to help turn Nezuko human. At Mount Sagiri, he finds Nezuko waiting, bringing relief. Inside, Sakonji praises Tanjiro for defeating a demon and explains different types of demons and their powers. Later, a swordsmith named Haganezuka arrives with a sword for Tanjiro, discussing its unique materials. Despite expectations, when Tanjiro unsheathes it, the blade turns black, surprising everyone. Haganezuka reacts oddly, causing a commotion. Tanjiro receives his first mission, investigating the disappearance of girls in a northwest town. Prepared for his role as a demon slayer, Tanjiro sets out, determined to fulfill his duty. Tanjiro, now a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, readies for his first mission, equipped with a special uniform and a determination to turn his sister Nezuko human again. He receives guidance from Sakonji and a new box to carry Nezuko during the day. In Northwest Town, Tanjiro meets Kazumi, who was with the latest victim, Satoko, during her disappearance. Despite skepticism from others, Tanjiro believes Kazumi and investigates the area, detecting a faint demon scent. Kazumi recalls the backlash he faced for suggesting Satoko vanished. As they search, Tanjiro insists on continuing at night, as demons are active then. Kazumi realizes Tanjiro's true nature. In another part of town, a girl's mother instructs her to stay indoors at night. However, as she gets ready for bed, something dark follows her through the floor of her house. While lying down, she wonders about the girls who disappeared. Suddenly, her bedroom floor turns into a dark, swampy puddle, and hands grab her from below. She can't scream as she's pulled into the murky water. Tanjiro suddenly gets up and runs off, confusing Kazumi. Tanjiro explains that the demon is closer now. He jumps onto the roof, astonishing Kazumi, who realizes Tanjiro is a demon slayer. In another alley, Tanjiro senses the demon and rescues a girl from its grip. Remembering Sakonji's words about demons, Tanjiro recognizes the demon's abilities. He questions the demon about the missing girl, but gets no response before it retreats. Tanjiro asks Kazumi to care for the girl and prepares for battle. Realizing he's fighting 3 clones, Tanjiro stays determined. He plans to ask the demons about Muzan and reversing demon transformations. During the fight, he remembers his family's murder and Nezuko's transformation, fueling his rage. Nezuko intervenes, surprising the demons. She recognizes Takeo and Hanako within Kazumi and the girl. Tanjiro recalls Sakonji's teachings and understands Nezuko's actions. With determination, Nezuko attacks the clones. Nezuko and Tanjiro face off against multiple clones of a demon. Tanjiro, recognizing Nezuko's strength, entrusts her with protecting bystanders while he confronts the demons. In the midst of battle, Tanjiro utilizes his skills, born from training in Mount Sagiri's thin air, to dispatch the clones. Meanwhile, Nezuko bravely battles one clone, displaying her formidable abilities. Ultimately, Tanjiro emerges victorious, severing the last clone's arms. However, the defeated demon refuses to divulge information about its master, Muzan Kibutsuji, out of fear. Despite Tanjiro's efforts to extract intel, The demon is terminated. Tanjiro tends to Nezuko's injuries, expressing remorse for her harm, and promises to restore her humanity. He then consoles Kazumi, a grieving bystander, offering solace and a keepsake of his lost loved one. As dawn breaks, Tanjiro departs, leaving Kazumi in charge of protecting the girl they saved. Reflecting on the pervasive suffering caused by demons, Tanjiro vows vengeance against Muzan. His resolve is interrupted by a new mission assignment in Asakusa, Tokyo, received through his Kasugai crow. Upon arriving at Asakusa, Tanjiro is struck by the vibrant lights illuminating the area at night, pondering the advancements cities have made. Gazing at the towering buildings and encountering a tram for the first time, he starts to feel dizzy. Upon entering an alleyway, they swiftly depart upon sighting a couple kissing. Racing through the city, Tanjiro becomes overwhelmed by the sights. Eventually, they reach the outskirts and pause at an udon shop, where an exhausted Tanjiro orders a bowl. As he prepares to eat, he suddenly detects a scent, causing him to drop his meal in shock. Breathing heavily, he gazes at the city, clutching his sword. Following the scent, he arrives at a bustling street. Suspecting it might be Muzan, he finds the source, a man emitting the scent. Grabbing his shoulder, Tanjiro confronts him, only to discover Muzan himself, accompanied by a child. Surprised by Muzan's guise as a human, Tanjiro freezes in horror. Muzan calmly interacts with a passerby and his wife, concealing his true nature. Stealthily, Muzan attacks a bystander, transforming him into a demon unnoticed. Tanjiro rushes to intervene, but the newly transformed demon bites his wife, causing panic among the crowd as Muzan observes silently. In the midst of a bustling crowd in Asakusa, a man undergoes a sinister transformation, turning into a demon and harming his wife. Swiftly, Tanjiro intervenes, silencing the demon by stuffing his hood into its mouth. Despite the woman's cries for help, Tanjiro directs her on how to slow the bleeding from her wound, urging bystanders to assist her while he grapples with the demon. Meanwhile, Muzan and his companions depart unnoticed, leaving Tanjiro with frustration as his adversary slips away. Tanjiro shouts after Muzan, vowing never to let him escape, but the demon progenitor remains indifferent, even as questioned by his wife about Tanjiro's peculiar actions. Undeterred, Tanjiro swears to decapitate Muzan and never forgive his atrocities. As the police arrive, Tanjiro pleads for restraints to secure the demon, but they attempt to forcibly remove him instead. Refusing to relinquish his grip, Tanjiro is on the verge of being overwhelmed until a distraction occurs. Flower petals and intricate patterns bewilder the officers, courtesy of a blood demon art known as Scent of Illusory Blood, Visual Dream. Amidst the chaos, Tanjiro encounters a demon accompanied by a boy who extends a helping hand. Despite Tanjiro's initial distrust, the demon reveals herself as a doctor and expresses a shared desire to defeat Muzan. Elsewhere, Muzan, disguising his true intentions, dismisses his family's concerns and ventures into an alley. An encounter with an intoxicated man leads to a violent altercation, resulting in the man's death and the terrorization of his companions. Muzan, asserting his dominance, inflicts fatal injuries upon them, reveling in his perceived perfection and power. With a menacing display of his abilities, Muzan demonstrates the consequences of his blood manipulation, gruesomely transforming a woman into a creature before her cells dissolve, leaving behind only ash. Muzan called forth two demons to his side, directing them to fetch Tanjiro's head, identifying him as the demon slayer with Hanafuda earrings. They obeyed without delay, leaving him to his desires. Alone, Muzan suddenly felt fear, recalling a past moment when he faced a formidable foe wearing the same earrings. Elsewhere, Tanjiro received a scolding from the udon vendor for not finishing the bowl he was given. He promptly ordered another, promising to eat it. When the vendor offered udon to Nezuko as well, Tanjiro intervened, asking for 2 bowls instead. After devouring his meal, they continued through the city. Tanjiro apologized to Nezuko for leaving her behind abruptly, but she stopped and stared ahead, noticing the boy who had accompanied the earlier demon. When Tanjiro claimed he could have found her with his sense of smell, the boy revealed she was concealed by a spell. He questioned if Nezuko was also a demon, insulting her appearance. Tanjiro defended her, asserting her beauty. As they traversed the city, they reached a dead-end alley. Despite Tanjiro's insistence that the boy was mistaken about Nezuko, he passed through a wall, urging them to follow. Inside the house beyond the dead end, they found an injured woman, tended to by the demon. Tanjiro apologized for leaving her alone and learned about a restrained, transformed man in the basement. When Tanjiro speculated on her struggle to treat humans, he was chastised by the boy. The woman introduced herself as Tamayo and her companion as Yushiro, explaining her unique condition and her ability to transform others. Tamayo revealed her method of survival through blood transfusions, making them indistinguishable from regular humans. She explained her reluctance to create more demons and her dedication to finding a way to reverse the transformation. She tasked Tanjiro with gathering samples for an elixir to aid in their research, citing Nezuko's unique condition and the difficulty of obtaining samples from demons close to Muzan. Despite the danger, Tanjiro agreed, hoping to save others. Tamayo thanked him, causing Tanjiro to blush, much to Yushiro's grin. Suddenly, they were attacked by the Tamari demon, signaling impending danger. The Arrow demon and the Tamari demon, sent by their master to kill Tanjiro, located his hiding place. They attack, revealing themselves to Tanjiro and Yushiro. Susumaru, the Tamari demon, launches a fierce assault, causing chaos. Tanjiro protects his companions, but Yushiro is tragically beheaded. Tanjiro realizes Susumaru's unusual strength and scent. As the battle intensifies, Susumaru reveals her affiliation with the 12 Kizuki, Muzan's elite demons. She unleashes multiple Tamaras, overwhelming Tanjiro. Tamayo considers using her spell but hesitates, fearing its impact. Tanjiro struggles to defend against the relentless attacks while noticing 2 demon scents. Amidst the chaos, the stakes escalate as Tanjiro faces not only Susumaru, but also the mysterious second demon presence. Tanjiro was instructed by Yushiro to follow the arrows to understand and avoid their path. When Tanjiro mentioned he couldn't see them, Yushiro, feeling annoyed, handed him a paper charm infused with his sight. With this, Tanjiro could now see that arrows guided the path of Susumaru's Tamaras. He thanked Yushiro for the help and noticed Nezuko's return. He invited her to join him in battling their adversaries outside. Tanjiro assigned Nezuko to deal with Yahaba while he faced Susumaru, to which she agreed. Susumaru proclaimed her intention to bring Tanjiro's head to Muzan and unleashed all her Tamaras. Tanjiro managed to dodge them and lured them away while waiting for Nezuko's signal. Nezuko found Yahaba in the trees and engaged him in combat, causing the arrows to fade and stop the Tamaras. Seizing the opportunity, Tanjiro used his water-breathing technique to swiftly cut down all the Tamaras and then swiftly disarmed Susumaru. He questioned Tamayo about the demon's connection to Muzan and resolved to extract their blood. Susumaru mocked Tanjiro's determination and dared him to try extracting their blood. Yushiro cautioned Tanjiro about the formidable nature of the 12 Kizuki demons. As Tanjiro prepared for the upcoming battle, Yushiro suggested to Tamayo that they should deceive Tanjiro and Nezuko and escape, though he quickly pretended to joke when Tamayo was horrified. While Nezuko battled Yahaba, he grew irritated by the dust and used his arrows to push her away. Nezuko's rapid regeneration amazed Tanjiro, who observed that it surpassed any demon he had encountered in the final selection. Nezuko collided with Tanjiro after being launched by Yahaba, just as Susumaru joined the fight on the ground. As Susumaru attacked with her Tamaras, Yushiro advised Tanjiro to deal with Yahaba first, while they handled Susumaru. Nezuko found renewed strength upon seeing Tamayo and Yushiro as her deceased mother and brother, motivating her to fight. The siblings split up to confront their opponents. Tanjiro attempted to extract Yahaba's blood for the cure, but struggled against his arrows, which disrupted his movements. Yahaba launched Tanjiro around the area with his arrows, causing him to crash into trees and the ground. As Yahaba prepared to drop Tanjiro to his death, Tanjiro managed to save himself with a technique just in time. Meanwhile, Nezuko successfully evaded Susumaru's Tamaras and witnessed Yushiro's invisible attacks on Susumaru. Yahaba overheard Yushiro's threats and realized Tamayo was a fugitive from Muzan. Susumaru agreed to take Tamayo as well and launched another Tamari at Nezuko, injuring her. Inside, Tamayo treated Nezuko's wounds and gave her a serum to accelerate her healing. Nezuko again saw her mother's image in Tamayo. Tanjiro realized that sensing Yahaba's attacks was futile unless he could strike accurately. Yahaba launched multiple arrows at Tanjiro, who dodged them all but struggled to counterattack. After a brief struggle, Tanjiro devised a plan to trap Yahaba's arrows and close in on him using his water techniques. Despite the weight of the attack on his sword, Tanjiro managed to decapitate Yahaba. Tanjiro, after maneuvering his arrows and approaching the arrow demon Yahaba, manages to sever his head. Yahaba, in defeat, laments his failure to gain Muzan's approval and vows revenge as he dies. Despite Tanjiro's efforts, Yahaba hurls him against a wall with enhanced arrows. Tanjiro, using his water-breathing techniques, barely manages to counter the assault and lands safely. The battle intensifies as Yahaba persistently attacks, pushing Tanjiro to his limits. Meanwhile, Suzumaru engages in combat with Nezuko and Yushiro. Nezuko, empowered by Tamayo's healing serum, surprises Suzumaru with her increasing strength. Tamayo reveals Nezuko's natural enhancement, not from consuming blood, but from within. The exchange between Nezuko and Suzumaru escalates, showcasing Nezuko's growing prowess. As Suzumaru prepares to unleash her full power, Tamayo intervenes, provoking Suzumaru with revelations about Muzan's true nature. Suzumaru, in a moment of realization, inadvertently reveals Muzan's last name, triggering a curse placed by Tamayo. Tamayo's blood demon art incapacitates Suzumaru, who meets her end with a mix of horror and pity from Tamayo. In the end, Tanjiro, though exhausted and wounded, remains determined to reunite with his allies and face the challenges ahead. Suzumaru fled and pleaded for Muzan's forgiveness, but her body underwent a disturbing transformation. Tanjiro, witnessing the scene, saw giant demonic arms emerge from Suzumaru, causing her immense pain. Tamayo, Tanjiro, and Yushiro watched in horror as Suzumaru's own arms brutally tore her apart. Tamayo explained that Muzan's curse, carried within her, was killing her slowly. Though demons usually can't harm each other, Muzan's cells could destroy them. Yushiro intervened to prevent Tanjiro from inhaling Tamayo's harmful spell. Tamayo clarified that Suzumaru wasn't one of the 12 Kizuki, as she lacked the numbered eyeball characteristic of true members. Suzumaru and Yahaba were considered too weak to be genuine members. Despite Suzumaru's demise, Tamayo extracted a vial of her blood for potential use. She then tended to Nezuko, who accidentally inhaled her spell. Yushiro, reluctant to leave Tamayo, eventually departed, leaving Tanjiro to assist her. Tanjiro heard a voice from Suzumaru's remains, a girl asking for a tamari. He placed her last tamari beside her, showing kindness despite her past deeds. As the sun rose, Tanjiro reflected on Suzumaru's tragic fate, manipulated into thinking she was one of the 12 Kizuki, only to be killed by a curse. He blamed Muzan for her demise, seeing him as a true demon. With dawn breaking, Tanjiro found Nezuko healed in the basement, where demons were sheltering. Nezuko hugged both Tanjiro and Tamayo, surprising Yushiro. Tamayo expressed gratitude for Nezuko's affection, despite her demonic nature. Yushiro remembered Tamayo saving him from a terminal illness, and Tamayo discussed their need to move to evade detection. She asked Tanjiro to allow them to take Nezuko in, but Tanjiro insisted on staying together. Tamayo bid them farewell, and Yushiro urged them to leave to avoid detection. As they departed, Tanjiro thanked them and Nezuko for staying together. Outside, Tanjiro was interrupted by his crow with a new mission, and they encountered a demon slayer in a strange situation, harassing a woman. Tanjiro observed the scene with surprise. While traveling, Tanjiro encounters fellow demon slayer Zenitsu pestering a woman. Tanjiro intervenes, recognizing Zenitsu from final selection. Zenitsu reveals his fear of imminent death and his troubled past. They share an onigiri, and Tanjiro addresses Zenitsu's behavior towards his sparrow. Urged by Tanjiro's crow, they reach a mansion where they meet siblings whose brother was taken by a monster. They witness a bloodied man thrown from the mansion and hear ominous sounds. Tanjiro resolves to confront the threat, while the children find comfort in memories of their brother. Tanjiro invites Zenitsu to enter a mansion, but Zenitsu hesitates until Tanjiro gives him a spiteful look. Outside, Tanjiro leaves Nezuko's box with children as they enter. Zenitsu asks for Tanjiro's protection, but Tanjiro explains his injury. Tanjiro calms Zenitsu before they're interrupted by the children's fear. They discover Nezuko's box abandoned and warn the children of danger, accidentally startling Zenitsu. The mansion's rooms shift, separating Tanjiro from the children and Zenitsu from the boy. Tanjiro comforts a frightened girl named Teruko, sensing a strong demon nearby. Meanwhile, Zenitsu clings to the boy for comfort, but encounters a masked stranger and becomes disappointed when he leaves. As Tanjiro faces the demon, he tries to attack, but is hindered by the demon's power, realizing the mansion is its domain. Suddenly, a new scent alerts Tanjiro to the arrival of the stranger, who bursts in wielding special swords. The drum demon is about to be attacked by the unknown demon slayer, who charges with his dual Nichiren swords. In response, the demon taps at Tsuzumi, causing the room to tilt and avoid the attack. Teruko lands on the upside-down ceiling, prompting Tanjiro to advise her to grab onto furniture. However, Tanjiro himself is hit by the masked stranger, who leaps from him as a springboard. Annoyed, Tanjiro urges him to focus on the demon rather than his reckless actions. The demon taps its drum twice, returning the room to its original position. Teruko lands on the floor, but is stepped on by the masked slayer, who enjoys the spinning rooms. Seeing this, Tanjiro angrily grabs his leg and throws him away, admonishing him for harming a little girl. In response, the stranger claims no one has ever thrown him like that and attacks Tanjiro with his swords. As Tanjiro backs away, he wonders why he's being challenged by another demon slayer. The stranger warns him that his swords will inflict pain, as they are designed to tear flesh. Despite Tanjiro's attempts to remind him of the demon threat, the stranger charges at him regardless. Infuriated by their interference, the drum demon taps the Tsuzumi on his stomach, causing giant claw marks to appear in front of Tanjiro and the masked demon slayer. The demon begins attacking and rotating the rooms simultaneously. Tanjiro starts to discern a pattern in the Tsuzumis and their movements, but becomes disoriented when the demon changes the rooms with his utterances. Losing track of the demon in the new room, Tanjiro detects the sense of multiple demons within the mansion. He discovers a corpse in a nearby hallway and leads Teruko in another direction. As they proceed down the hall, Tanjiro smells a new scent and finds the children's lost older brother holding a Tsuzumi. Meanwhile, Zenitsu and Shoichi navigate the dark hallways, with Zenitsu becoming increasingly terrified. Shoichi startles him by suddenly speaking, prompting Zenitsu to scold him for not warning him first. Shoichi, tired of Zenitsu's fear, points out his own nervousness caused by Zenitsu's fright. Apologetic, Zenitsu urges them to be quiet to avoid attracting demons, but ends up yelling instead. Suddenly, Shoichi spots a demon approaching from behind Zenitsu. They flee, but the demon gives chase, using its tongue to attack. They are chased into a room, with Zenitsu urging Shoichi to run while his fear paralyzes him. Despite his desire to protect Shoichi, Zenitsu struggles to find the courage to fight. As the demon corners them, Zenitsu is overwhelmed by fear and loses consciousness. Shoichi is shocked to see Zenitsu unconscious as the demon closes in. However, Zenitsu suddenly wakes up, surprising both the demon and Shoichi. Zenitsu stood ready, taking a deep breath that made the creature pause, confused by the unexpected noise. Feeling something change, Zenitsu quickly drew his sword and used thunder breathing. First form. Thunderclap and flash, cutting off the demon's head in one go. Then, he woke up suddenly, seeing the demon's head next to him. He got scared, thinking Shoichi had beaten the demon. While traveling through the hallways, the masked demon slayer irritably recalls his battle with the drum demon, lasting 3 days. A hand attempts to grab him, but he flips back to safety just in time. A horned demon appears, wanting to devour him. The swordsman readies himself, using self-taught beast breathing. He swiftly slashes off the demon's arms, then slices its head using third fang. Devour. Using the corpse, he launches himself forward and continues proudly through the mansion. The drum demon mutters about devouring someone with Morechi blood to reclaim his place among the 12 Kizuki. He reminisces about being found by Muzan and stripped of his rank for not finishing his meal. Teruko rushes to her injured brother Kiyoshi, who was rescued from Kyogai by Tanjiro. After patching his wound, Tanjiro learns from Kiyoshi about the demon's altercation and the Tsuzumi. As Tanjiro prepares to battle Kyogai, he instructs the children to strike the Tsuzumi and promises to return. Despite Kyogai's attempts to disorient him, Tanjiro anticipates the changes and continues to fight, enduring the pain. Remembering Sakonji's advice on water breathing, Tanjiro adapts his movements to keep fighting. Despite Zenitsu's doubts, Tanjiro resolves to never give up, preparing to face Kyogai with determination. Despite his injuries hindering him and the relentless onslaught of Kyogai's rotating rooms, Tanjiro perseveres in the fight, refusing to give up on everything he's fought for. Meanwhile, Zenitsu and Shoichi explore the mansion, worried about Tanjiro's safety amidst the eerie sounds. They realize they're going in circles before a sudden flip sends them tumbling out a window. Kyogai continues his assault, using the room's manipulation to disorient Tanjiro and unleash deadly attacks. Despite Tanjiro's struggles, he refuses to surrender, even demanding Kyogai's name. The demon, driven by a desire to reclaim his position among the 12 Kizuki, intensifies his attacks. Tanjiro recalls a similar refusal to quit in his own past, further fueling his determination. As the battle escalates, Kyogai's memories of past humiliations drive him to unleash his full power, causing the room to spin out of control. Tanjiro, noticing a pattern in Kyogai's attacks, adapts his strategy. Utilizing shallow breaths and keen observation, he avoids the onslaught and prepares for a decisive counterattack. With newfound insight into Kyogai's techniques, Tanjiro launches a powerful assault, ultimately defeating the demon. However, in a moment of relief, Tanjiro's injury worsens. As Kyogai fades, Tanjiro collects a blood sample for Tamayo, aided by Yushiro's knife. Suddenly, Tamayo's cat appears, taking the sample before disappearing. Tanjiro then remembers his mission to find Kiyoshi and Teruko. Kyogai, in his final moments, reflects on the past when his songwriting faced insults, now realizing its falsehood thanks to Tanjiro's recognition. As the Demon Slayer prays for Kyogai's soul to find peace and departs, tears fall from the former Kizuki's eyes. His blood demon art and Tsuzumi playing acknowledged before he fades into ashes. Tanjiro finds the children in a new room, enduring a book to the forehead when Teruko throws various objects in surprise. Exiting the mansion with the three, Tanjiro senses blood suddenly. He rushes outside to find the masked demon slayer repeatedly kicking Zenitsu, who protects Nezuko's box. Shocked by Zenitsu's kindness, despite their brief acquaintance, Zenitsu explains his motive. After their fall, Zenitsu and Shoichi suffer minor injuries. They hear a voice from inside the mansion, and the masked demon slayer bursts through the door. Recognizing him as the fifth survivor of Final Selection, Zenitsu blocks his path. The masked slayer, sensing a demonic presence, aims for Tanjiro's box. Zenitsu stands firm, stating Tanjiro's ownership. The slayer threatens both Zenitsu and the box, but Zenitsu remains resolute, aware of the demon inside. Zenitsu recalls realizing the demon within Tanjiro's box during their first encounter. Despite this, Tanjiro's kindness convinced him of a noble cause. As the slayer continues his assault, Tanjiro intervenes to protect Zenitsu, recalling past trauma. In the midst of confrontation, Tanjiro's resolve to protect his comrades strengthens against the masked demon slayer's aggression. Tanjiro lands a powerful punch, cracking the masked demon slayer's ribs and sending him flying, explaining that Zenitsu didn't draw his blade because demon slayers are forbidden from harming each other. The masked slayer weakly apologizes and fights Tanjiro barehanded. Despite Tanjiro's warnings about the taboo, the masked slayer attacks. During the fight, Tanjiro struggles to land a blow due to the stranger's beast-like stance and flexibility. The masked slayer bends his legs to hit Tanjiro and stretches backward despite his injuries, saying he only cares about the present, which angers Tanjiro. After a headbutt, the masked slayer's boar mask falls off, revealing a pretty feminine face. He introduces himself as Inosuke Hashibira, but faints from a concussion. Later, Inosuke wakes up with a scream, startling Zenitsu. He refuses to help bury the dead, surprising Zenitsu, but Tanjiro explains it's because he's hurt. Inosuke loudly claims he can bury hundreds of corpses. While others pray for the deceased, Inosuke headbutts trees. Tanjiro's Kasugai Crow instructs them to follow. Zenitsu, still believing Shoichi defeated the tongue demon, clings to him for protection, forcing Tanjiro to knock him out. The crow gives Kiyoshi a bag of wisteria to ward off demons. The children bid the demon slayers farewell. Inosuke challenges Tanjiro, misnaming him, which leads to an argument. Zenitsu scolds them for being loud. They reach a house with a wisteria family crest, where an elderly woman recognizes them and invites them in. Inside, she provides clothes and a meal. Inosuke eats messily, ignoring Zenitsu's request to use chopsticks. The woman gives them futons, and Inosuke throws a pillow at Zenitsu. An elderly woman introduces the group to a doctor to check their injuries, revealing that they all have broken ribs. While resting in bed, Inosuke mentions that the lump on his head from Tanjiro's headbutt hurts more, prompting an apology from Tanjiro. Zenitsu takes this moment to ask Inosuke for an apology for beating him, but Inosuke refuses, irritating both Zenitsu and Tanjiro with his rudeness. Tanjiro learns from his Kasugai Crow that the house they are staying in belongs to a family rescued by demon slayers in the past, and they now care for demon slayers for free as gratitude. Tanjiro asks Inosuke why he joined the Final Selection. Inosuke explains that a demon slayer came to his mountain, leading him to fight and take the slayer's sword. This encounter made him aware of the selection process and the existence of demons. Tanjiro mentions that both of them grew up in the mountains, but Inosuke denies having parents or siblings, saying he lived on the mountain to test his strength against others. Zenitsu seizes the chance to ask Tanjiro why he carries a demon with him. Tanjiro thanks Zenitsu for protecting the box, embarrassing him. Tanjiro explains that his sense of smell allowed him to sense Zenitsu's kindness and strength, though Zenitsu remains unsure of himself. Suddenly, Nezuko's box begins to shake, frightening Zenitsu. Tanjiro tries to calm Zenitsu, but his anxiety increases. When the box opens, Zenitsu hysterically attempts to escape the room, only to be kicked away by Inosuke. Zenitsu lands in front of the box just as it opens, revealing a hand that scares him into hiding in a closet. Nezuko crawls out of the box, and as Tanjiro calls to her, she stands up, showing herself to Zenitsu. Zenitsu becomes furious, thinking Tanjiro has been traveling with a cute girl. Tanjiro tries to reason with him, but Zenitsu angrily scolds him for risking his life just to be with a girl. He declares that the Demon Slayer Corps isn't something you join for fun, and draws his blade in anger. Zenitsu discovers that the demon in Tanjiro's box is actually his sister, Nezuko. Furious, he admonishes Tanjiro, claiming the Demon Slayer Corps isn't for fun. However, Zenitsu becomes smitten by Nezuko and chases her around, only to be stopped by Tanjiro. To get closer to her, Zenitsu pretends to be nice to Tanjiro and chases him too. Inosuke, hearing the commotion, gets hungry, and Hisa, their caretaker, gives him new clothes and offers to make tempura for dinner. Inosuke then headbutts Tanjiro, laughing and joining Zenitsu in chasing him. After a doctor's visit confirms they are healed, Tanjiro's Kasugai Crow instructs them to head to Mount Natagu. As they leave, Tanjiro thanks Hisa, who strikes a Kiribi flint for good luck. Inosuke questions her actions, and Zenitsu explains it's a wish for their mission success. Hisa advises them to live with pride and wishes them luck. During their journey, Inosuke wonders about Hisa's good luck wish, shocking Zenitsu. Tanjiro explains it means knowing one's place and not being ashamed. Annoyed by Inosuke's questions, Tanjiro speeds up, prompting Inosuke to chase after him, with Zenitsu lagging behind. At Mount Natagumo, Zenitsu is frightened and refuses to enter. Tanjiro detects a scent and runs off, followed by Inosuke, with Zenitsu eventually joining them. They find an injured demon slayer, who is suddenly pulled back into the forest. Despite Zenitsu's fear, Tanjiro is motivated to enter the forest, and Inosuke takes the lead. Inside, they encounter white spiders, ensnared demon slayers, and spider-like demons. They meet an anxious demon slayer, who reveals that his group started killing each other under some influence. In a shrine elsewhere, a weary Kasugai Crow approaches a man and shares news of a massacre. Considering the 12 Kizuki's presence on the mountain, he decides to dispatch some Hashira. Giyu, Tomioka, and Shinobu stand nearby, acknowledging the decision. Shinobu questions Giyu about demon-human coexistence. Giyu dismisses it, citing the impossibility due to demons' consumption of humans. Sitting alone on the road, Zenitsu ponders if Tanjiro and Inosuke truly dislike him. Feeling abandoned, he reflects on the absence of conversation and their departure without him. His sparrow tries to lift his spirits, but Zenitsu rebuffs its attempts until it bites him. Annoyed, he criticizes its lack of cuteness compared to Nezuko. Remembering Tanjiro took Nezuko along, Zenitsu resolves to join them in the forest with determination. A disturbing sound alarms Tanjiro, who recalls it preceding the massacre. Emerging from the fog are deceased demon slayers, attacking them. Despite Inosuke's disdain for harming them, Tanjiro suspects external manipulation. In a scuffle, Inosuke accidentally headbutts Tanjiro. Together, they fend off the attackers, identifying a sweet scent and slicing threads controlling them. Noticing white spiders, Tanjiro realizes their role in manipulation. He and Inosuke free the demon slayers from control, but a white female demon, seeking to turn them into dolls, reasserts control. Tanjiro decides killing the demon is necessary. Despite Inosuke's attempt to kill the spiders, Tanjiro focuses on finding the demon's location, hindered by continuous attacks and the demon's scent. Spotting a childlike demon in the trees, Tanjiro questions its mention of family and mother. Inosuke, following Tanjiro's lead, uses his heightened senses to locate a demon atop a boulder. The pale demon vows to protect its family, drawing a spiderweb. In the forest, Inosuke, using his beast-breathing, 7th form, spatial awareness, detects a demon far away. After informing Tanjiro, he receives praise for his skills. However, they are repeatedly attacked by controlled demon slayers. Meanwhile, Zenitsu, tired from running, enters the forest in search of Nezuko. Inosuke plans to eliminate the attackers, but Tanjiro suggests finding another solution. When one of the attackers strikes at Tanjiro, Murata intervenes and advises them to leave him. Despite his earlier fear, Murata asserts his determination as a demon slayer. Grateful, Tanjiro and Inosuke depart, though Inosuke is annoyed at not getting to confront Murata for insulting him. As they progress into Mount Natagumo, Tanjiro reprimands Inosuke for his behavior, which Inosuke justifies by citing Murata's insult. Tanjiro questions their direction, but Inosuke's senses lead them into spider webs. They encounter more controlled demon slayers, including a girl who pleads for help. The female demon controlling the demon slayers delights in their approach, as her closer threads and dolls are stronger. Suddenly, a voice startles her, revealing Rui, who urges her to accelerate her efforts. Terrified of punishment, the female demon intensifies her control over the demon slayers. Despite their pleas, the controlled individuals are forced to attack. Tanjiro witnesses the cruelty and devises a plan to free them from control by entangling them in branches. Inosuke mimics Tanjiro's actions, rendering the controlled demon slayers powerless. Zenitsu, overwhelmed and scared, seeks his friend's help. Despite his doubts, he finds courage and sets out to find Nezuko. With one demon slayer remaining, Inosuke and Tanjiro incapacitate him, turning their mission into a competition. The female demon, frustrated, manipulates the threads to kill the controlled demon slayers, shocking Tanjiro and Inosuke. In silence, Tanjiro mourns the fallen demon slayers, expressing his determination to continue. Inosuke quietly agrees, and they press on. As they journeyed through the forest, Inosuke guided them, while Tanjiro noticed his sense of smell returning. He detected two demon scents and something in the distance. Inosuke, already aware, charged to attack, but found a giant headless demon doll controlled by threads and armed with blades. Zenitsu, in the forest, called for Nezuko and Tanjiro, growing frightened by distant sounds, which turned out to be harmless birds. Frustrated, he vowed to find Nezuko and leave, but didn't realize he was being followed. Tanjiro and Inosuke dodged the doll's attacks, noting its unusual lack of a head weakness. Tanjiro suggested a plan to slice it diagonally, but Inosuke impulsively attacked, getting restrained by threads. Saved by Tanjiro, Inosuke learned the importance of teamwork. Tanjiro coordinated their attacks, slicing the doll's arms and legs. Inosuke admired Tanjiro's strategic vision. After defeating the doll, Tanjiro sensed a demon's presence. Mother, shocked by the doll's defeat, blamed Rui's earlier threats. Facing Tanjiro, she accepted her fate peacefully, recalling her painful past. She recognized Tanjiro's kindness, reminiscent of someone from her human days. As she reaches her final moments, Mother expresses gratitude towards Tanjiro, letting him know that a member of the 12 Kizuki is present on the mountain. She advises him to be cautious before fading away entirely. Tanjiro, upon hearing her farewell, is taken aback by the revelation that a true member of the 12 Kizuki is lurking on the mountain. On Mount Natagumo, Tanjiro perceives the presence of a 12 Kizuki member, realizing the mountain likely holds a high concentration of Muzan's blood. This strengthens his resolve to extract it for Nezuko's medicine. Returning to Inosuke, who inquires about Mother's defeat, Tanjiro responds affirmatively, concerned for Inosuke's injuries. Despite Inosuke's dismissal of his care, Tanjiro blames himself for Inosuke's wounds and reflects on Mother's surrender and suffering. Attempting to tend to Inosuke's wounds, Tanjiro contemplates the anomaly of the mountain hosting both a 12 Kizuki member and a demon family, contrary to demon's solitary nature. Meanwhile, Zenitsu, lost in the forest, feels a sting on his hand and grows frustrated and disoriented. Encountering unsettling sights and smells, he panics at the appearance of a human-headed spider and flees, believing it to be a nightmare. In a clearing, Zenitsu witnesses captured humans transforming into spiders and encounters a formidable spider demon. Taunted by the demon's predictions of his transformation into a spider, Zenitsu flees, but is chased by transformed spiders. Faced with his impending fate, Zenitsu recalls his past struggles and regrets his perceived weakness. Struck by lightning, he reflects on his tumultuous life and resolves to fight against his transformation, questioning why it must happen now. The spider demon observed the demon slayer, who was yelling and crying amidst the branches, growing increasingly confused by his behavior. Climbing up the tree, the spiders received orders from Zenitsu to stall while he attempted to communicate. However, Zenitsu's frustration led to clumps of hair falling off, much to his surprise and annoyance, as he hadn't anticipated losing his hair first. The spider demon mocked Zenitsu's imminent demise, causing him to lose consciousness out of fear. Upon regaining consciousness, Zenitsu found himself falling from the tree, but managed to regain his footing and prepared to counterattack. As he launched himself towards the spider demon, the demon retaliated with poison sputum, narrowly missing Zenitsu. Noting Zenitsu's changed demeanor, the demon ordered his spiders to attack, forcing Zenitsu into a defensive stance. The demon recognized Zenitsu's limitation to only one form of thunder breathing. Recalling a past training session, Zenitsu remembered his trainer's encouragement to refine his skills, despite initially feeling disheartened by his limited abilities. His trainer likened the process to forging a sword, repeatedly striking to improve durability. Zenitsu questioned the method, but his trainer emphasized the importance of perseverance and self-belief. As the spider demon taunted Zenitsu for his single form, Zenitsu remembered his trainer's words about never giving up and believing in himself. Dodging another attack, Zenitsu found himself surrounded by spiders, recalling another moment of doubt during his training when a fellow student criticized him. Reflecting on his life as an orphan and the lack of support he received, Zenitsu felt grateful for his trainer's unwavering guidance and tough love. Despite the challenges, Zenitsu resolved to persevere, fueled by his mentor's belief in him. The spider demon instructs his minions to intensify his poisoning. Using their sharp tongues, the spiders try to further poison Zenitsu. He retreats to safety, spewing blood from the poison, which halts his movement, allowing the spiders to overpower him. Watching with satisfaction, the spider demon witnesses all the spiders being suddenly blown away as lightning surrounds Zenitsu. Landing, the demon observes the demon slayer with renewed fear as Zenitsu employs thunder breathing. First form, thunderclap and flash, launching the attack sixfold. Once more, the spider demon uses poison sputum, but the poisonous blob moves too slowly to hit Zenitsu. Speeding around the clearing, preparing to strike, Zenitsu confuses the demon, who loses track of him. Seizing the opportunity, Zenitsu propels himself towards the retreating demon, chasing it to its dwelling. Using a thread, he launches himself upward, swiftly decapitating the demon. The creature becomes enraged at being defeated by someone like Zenitsu, expressing disbelief at the absurdity of his attack before disintegrating into ash. Zenitsu lands on the suspended house, suffering from the poison's effects. Despite his pain, he reflects on achieving his dream of becoming powerful to aid others, as his trainer had taught him. However, he believes his dream is shattered due to the poison. Chuntaro, his sparrow companion, lands beside him, tearing up. Zenitsu apologizes, and Chuntaro flies away. Remembering his trainer's words to never give up, Zenitsu uses his breathing techniques to slow the poison's circulation, determined not to disappoint his trainer and to avoid Tanjiro's anger. Elsewhere, Tanjiro hears a distant lightning strike, recognizing it as Zenitsu's attack. Confused by the absence of a thundercloud scent, he questions Inosuke, who brushes off his concerns. While crossing a river, Tanjiro offers to investigate further, noting Inosuke's injuries. Inosuke denies being hurt, puzzling Tanjiro. Spotting a pale demon across the river, Tanjiro realizes he couldn't sense her presence due to the demon scent pervading the mountain. Inosuke gives chase to the demon, who suddenly cries out, "Father!" Confused, Inosuke is confronted by an enormous spider-like demon leaping into the water. As Inosuke and Tanjiro recoil at the new threat, Father angrily warns them to stay away from his family. While the female demon flees, Father prepares to attack the vulnerable Inosuke. Tanjiro retaliates with water breathing, second form, water wheel, but his blade barely scratches Father's arm. Upon arrival at Mount Natagumo, the corpses of numerous demon slayers greet Shinobu and Giyu. Observing Giyu's silence, Shinobu inquires about his acquaintances among the fallen, presuming there are no survivors. She mentions the participation of several Mizunoto, assuming their demise. While traversing the forest, Shinobu attempts to remark on the full moon's beauty, but Giyu's disregard prompts her to suggest harmony during their shared mission. Giyu rebuffs, stating his sole purpose is demon extermination. Despite teasing him for his coldness, Shinobu agrees to split up, branching westward for investigation, while Giyu continues ahead. The father of the spider family emerges to confront the intruders. Inosuke's attack is intercepted by Tanjiro's water breathing. Second form, water wheel, albeit ineffective against the demon's hardened arm. Father retaliates, but Inosuke's intervention prevents further harm. Inosuke, feeling weakened, retreats as Tanjiro devises a new strategy, employing water breathing. Second form, improved lateral water wheel. Tanjiro traps Father beneath a fallen tree, impressing Inosuke with his skill. With Father pinned, Tanjiro prepares for a decisive strike. However, Father deflects Tanjiro's attack with the fallen tree, sending Tanjiro flying. Tanjiro warns Inosuke of Father's true nature as one of the 12 Kizuki, urging him to survive until his return. Inosuke faces Father alone as Tanjiro is hurled into the distance. Zenitsu's condition deteriorates atop the suspended house, while the transformed demon slayers below worry for him. Zenitsu, recalling his trainer's advice, finds hope amidst his struggle. Shinobu arrives, concerned for his well-being. After being flung into the forest, Tanjiro slows his descent with water breathing. Second form, water wheel, but sustains injuries. Drawn by cries of pain, he finds daughter wounded by Rui's web. Rui confronts Tanjiro, asserting their familial bond and warning against interference. Tanjiro challenges Rui's perspective, causing daughter's surprise and Rui's anger. Another demon slayer attacks Rui, but is swiftly killed. Tanjiro stands his ground against Rui's threats, refusing to retract his words. Inosuke, meanwhile, evades father's pursuit and confronts him, displaying a newfound determination. As Inosuke struggles against father's enhanced form, memories of Tanjiro's encouragement and Hisa's advice spur him on. Inosuke fights back, but is overpowered by father's strength. Giyu intervenes, severing father's arm and swiftly defeating him. Inosuke, in awe of Giyu's prowess, witnesses the demon's demise. Tanjiro faces Rui's threats with increasing clarity, engaging him in combat. Despite Rui's confidence, Tanjiro's resilience prevails as he prepares to counterattack. As Tanjiro engages in combat with Rui, his sword cuts through the steel-like threads with precision, narrowly avoiding a strike that leaves a gash across his face. Observing his broken weapon, Rui glances at his fallen adversary. Meanwhile, Inosuke witnesses Giyu's astonishing display of power as he dispatches father, his admiration evident. However, Inosuke's attempt to engage with Giyu is met with indifference, leaving him frustrated. Giyu, unwinding a bundle of rope, dismisses father's significance, contradicting Inosuke's assertion. Inosuke finds himself unexpectedly restrained to a tree, bewildered by Giyu's swiftness as he walks away. Zenitsu, in another scene, is comforted by Shinobu after recalling a vision of his grandfather. Shinobu explains the phenomenon as a survival mechanism, praising Zenitsu's control over the poison's effects. Meanwhile, Tanjiro confronts Rui, acknowledging the formidable strength of his threads. Despite his weapon's failure, Tanjiro remains defiant, evading Rui's attacks while devising a strategy. Unexpectedly, Nezuko intervenes, sacrificing herself to shield Tanjiro from harm. Rui, intrigued by Nezuko's transformation, recognizes the bond between siblings. Daughter pleads with Rui, claiming to be his elder sister, seeking redemption. Rui, unmoved, assigns her a task to eliminate the demon slayers, promising forgiveness upon completion. Tanjiro adamantly refuses Rui's demand to surrender Nezuko, sparking a tense standoff. Rui, revealing his status as lower rank 5, asserts his dominance, challenging Tanjiro's resolve. Despite Tanjiro's efforts, his attacks prove futile against Rui's resilient body. As Rui torments Tanjiro and Nezuko, Tanjiro recalls his father's teachings on a special breathing technique. Drawing strength from cherished memories, Tanjiro unleashes a newfound power, the Hinokami Kagura, to combat Rui's onslaught. With determination, Tanjiro engages lower rank 5 in combat, slicing through obstacles as he advances towards Rui to rescue Nezuko. Startled, Rui retreats, attempting to defend himself by creating more blood threads, but Tanjiro persists, cutting through them all. Identifying an opportunity in the midst of the confrontation, Tanjiro aims to sever Rui's neck despite the imminent threat posed by the threads. Meanwhile, Nezuko, ensnared in the threads, experiences a vision of her mother urging her to awaken and save Tanjiro. Moved by her mother's plea, Nezuko resolves to do her best, realizing the danger her brother faces. With tears in her eyes, she implores her to awaken, fearing for Tanjiro's life. In that critical moment, Nezuko regains consciousness, her blood activating her own blood demon art, exploding blood, which incinerates the threads. The flames spread rapidly, reaching both Rui and Tanjiro. The inferno consumes the threads, obstructing Tanjiro's path, enabling him to reach Rui and deliver a decisive blow to his neck. In astonishment, Rui witnesses Tanjiro's declaration of the unbreakable bond between him and Nezuko. With the drops of blood on his blade ablaze, Tanjiro executes the final strike, beheading lower rank 5. In a joint effort, Rui, the lower rank 5, is defeated by Tanjiro and Nezuko, using their family's Hinokami Kagura and her new blood demon art. Tanjiro collapses from exhaustion as Rui's body falls, while Nezuko's restraints burn away upon hitting the ground. Though Tanjiro credits his father's Kagura for their victory, he remains uncertain how his father's memory aided him. Blurred vision and physical agony overwhelm him as he crawls towards Nezuko, recalling Inosuke still needing assistance. Suddenly, the scent of blood alerts Tanjiro to an approaching threat. Despite decapitating Rui, the demon emerges unscathed, intending to kill both siblings. Rui taunts Tanjiro, revealing he deceived death by severing his own head with threads. Tanjiro struggles to control his breathing as Rui prepares to unleash his deadly blood demon art. Despite his exhaustion, Tanjiro attempts to defend himself, but finds himself immobilized by Rui's blood threads. Before Rui can deliver the fatal blow, Giyu intervenes, saving Tanjiro. Giyu praises Tanjiro for holding out until his arrival and instructs him to leave the battle to him. Rui, angered by the interference, unleashes a barrage of blood threads at Giyu, who effortlessly counters with his water-breathing technique. Tanjiro witnesses Giyu's mastery and Rui's defeat, surprised by the existence of an 11th form. Elsewhere, daughter reflects on her past with Rui's fabricated family, recalling her recruitment and transformation under his influence. She recounts her initiation, marked by excruciating pain as Rui shares his blood with her. Despite the illusion of family, daughter realizes the deception and plots her escape with her older sister. Their plan is thwarted when Rui discovers them, resulting in the older sister's brutal punishment. As daughter recounts her past, she crosses paths with Murata, a demon slayer. Engulfing him in silk, she prepares to dissolve him with acid before Shinobu intervenes. Shinobu engages daughter in conversation, probing her actions and revealing the extent of her atrocities. Despite daughter's attempts to deflect blame, Shinobu exposes the truth and confronts her with the consequences of her actions. In a final showdown, Shinobu defeats daughter with her poison-infused techniques, rendering her immobile. With daughter's demise, Shinobu reflects on the nature of her own abilities and the role of poison within the Demon Slayer Corps. Meanwhile, Tanjiro grapples with his conflicted feelings towards Rui and his fabricated family, guided by his memories and instincts. On a chilly winter day, a young boy observes other children playing in the snowy streets. As he approaches them, he suddenly falls to the ground, struggling to breathe. Turning over, he gazes up at the sky, where a woman, identified as his mother, rushes to tend to him. Despite her efforts, she scolds him for disobeying the rule of staying indoors due to his frail health. Reflecting on his past, the boy, named Rui, recalls his lifelong struggle with physical weakness. He recounts an encounter with Muzan, a powerful demon, who offered him a way to become stronger but at a cost. After accepting Muzan's offer, Rui gains a robust body, but discovers he must avoid sunlight and consume humans to survive. His parents, upon learning of his monstrous transformation, react with shock and sorrow. Rui, conflicted by memories of his parents' love and their subsequent attempt to kill him, questions the meaning of familial bonds. Faced with his parents' betrayal and his own violent response, Rui grapples with guilt and seeks validation from Muzan, who manipulates him further. In his final moments, as Rui confronts Tanjiro, a demon slayer, he experiences regret for his actions and a longing for familial connection. Tanjiro, sensing Rui's inner turmoil, offers him a moment of warmth and compassion. As Rui fades away, he yearns for forgiveness from his parents, but realizes it is too late. In the afterlife, reunited with his parents, Rui seeks redemption through apology before they vanish together. As Tanjiro witnesses Rui's body fading away completely, he's surprised to see Giyu stepping on his clothes. Giyu scolds him for showing sympathy to a demon, saying it doesn't matter if it looked like a child. It was a hideous monster that had lived for decades. Tanjiro responds that he'll kill mercilessly to avenge those killed by demons and prevent more victims. But he won't trample on demons who regret their actions because they were once human too. He pleads with Giyu to step off Rui's clothes, arguing that demons are tragic and hopeless creatures, not hideous monsters. Giyu, seeing Nezuko with Tanjiro, suddenly remembers them from their encounter years ago. Butterflies surround him, and he quickly understands the situation, lowering his stance. Shinobu speeds in from the trees, attempting to kill Nezuko, but Giyu blocks her blade, causing confusion. She questions why he interrupted her attack after saying demons and humans could never get along, stating that his actions are why he's disliked. Meanwhile, a transformed demon slayer receives medication, and the poison quickly disappears. The person who administers it, a man called Kakushi, expresses amazement at its effectiveness, noting Shinobu's skill. His partner adds that Shinobu had determined the treatment after a quick assessment. They praise the Hashira and Zenitsu, who had killed the responsible demon, for their bravery. They quickly finish treatment and advise leaving the scene promptly. As Tanjiro observes Shinobu's unique blade, she asks Giyu to move again. He surprises Tanjiro and Shinobu by stating he isn't disliked by people. Shinobu apologizes for the misunderstanding, realizing he hadn't noticed. Much to Giyu's chagrin and Tanjiro's shock, she warns Tanjiro about protecting a demon, offering a gentle toxin to kill Nezuko without pain, which worries him. Giyu instructs Tanjiro to take Nezuko and run, disregarding Shinobu's objections. With Nezuko in his arms, Tanjiro flees through the forest, grabbing his box as he goes. Despite intense pain, he pushes himself to keep running. As Nezuko wakes up, Tanjiro wonders if he should leave the Demon Slayer Corps, fearing they won't allow him to travel with the demon. Unbeknownst to him, someone is pursuing them through the trees. Shinobu and Giyu clash swords, with Shinobu surprised that a Hashira is protecting a demon. When Giyu remains silent, she decides to leave to avoid wasting time, leaping into the trees to hunt down Nezuko. Giyu follows her on the ground, determined to catch up. As Tanjiro descends Mount Natagumo, a girl lands on his back, causing him to fall and lose hold of Nezuko. Another demon slayer appears, threatening to behead Nezuko. Tanjiro intervenes, but is knocked unconscious by the slayer. Nezuko shrinks down to avoid the attacks as the slayer gives chase. Meanwhile, Shinobu questions Giyu's intentions for interfering with her attack. Giyu remains silent, frustrating Shinobu, who tries to escape his hold. A message from headquarters arrives, ordering Tanjiro and Nezuko's capture. Shinobu and Giyu sheathe their swords and leave Mount Natagumo. Elsewhere, Kikuchi find Tanjiro and Inosuke, taking them into custody. Zenitsu, alongside treated demon slayers, observes the Kikuchi's efficiency. He recognizes a girl giving orders as a survivor from final selection. The Kikuchi bring the wounded to the Butterfly Mansion for treatment, while the girl hunts demons. As dawn breaks over Mount Natagumo, everyone leaves the forest. Tanjiro wakes up surrounded by Hashira. In an undisclosed location, Tanjiro finds himself surrounded by powerful Demon Slayer Corps members, the Hashira. They question his decision to protect his demon-turned-sister, Nezuko, despite its violation of their rules. Tanjiro recounts his quest to cure Nezuko and her abstinence from human blood. Despite his plea, some Hashira advocate for their execution. When Nezuko is threatened, Tanjiro defends her, leading to a confrontation with Wind Hashira, Sanemi Shinazugawa. Amidst the chaos, Giyu announces the master's imminent arrival. Tanjiro's defiance against the Hashira's judgment escalates, culminating in an unexpected confrontation with Sanemi. Tanjiro's unwavering determination to protect Nezuko, despite the consequences, underscores the complexity of their bond amidst the rigid rules of the Demon Slayer Corps. The master remarked on the pleasant weather and expressed satisfaction at reaching their semi-annual meeting. Tanjiro, curious about the man's appearance and well-being, found himself suddenly pushed to the ground by Sanemi. Observing the other Hashira bowing to the master, Tanjiro witnessed Sanemi delivering eloquent greetings, expressing pleasure at the master's good health and offering prayers for continued fortune. Mitsuri, feeling dismayed, expressed her desire to offer similar greetings herself. Sanemi inquired about Tanjiro in a surprisingly formal manner, contrasting with his initial brutish appearance. The master apologized for the situation and revealed his approval of Tanjiro and Nezuko's circumstances, asking for acceptance from the others. Gyomei disagreed with the master's decision, despite understanding his intentions, while Tengen concurred. Mitsuri swiftly accepted the master's wishes, and Muichiro, indifferent, stated his readiness either way. Shinobu and Giyu remained silent. Obanai maintained distrust toward the siblings, and Kyojuro fervently opposed the master's decision. Sanemi requested punishment for both Tanjiro and Giyu. The master then instructed one of his aides to read a letter from the former Hashira, Sakonji Urokodaki. The letter summarized, requested permission for Tanjiro to be with Nezuko due to her strong will and her abstinence from harming humans for 2 years. Sakonji outlined the consequences if she did attack, with Tanjiro himself and Giyu prepared to atone through seppuku. Sanemi rejected the promise, arguing its uncertainty, with Kyojuro agreeing that her killing a human was irreversible. The master acknowledged the uncertainty, but emphasized Nezuko's 2-year restraint and the sacrifices made for her. He urged the Hashira to present a more convincing argument, causing Sanemi and Kyojuro to hesitate. The master then revealed Tanjiro's encounter with Muzan Kibutsuji, prompting disbelief among the Hashira. Despite their skepticism, the master emphasized Muzan's acknowledgement of Nezuko and her potential significance. In the end, from the box emerges a figure, eyeing the wounded Hashira hungrily. He provokes her, tempting her with the scent of blood, while the other Hashiras observe. Nezuko fights to control herself, much to Sanemi's amusement. Meanwhile, Tanjiro struggles against his restraints, surprising Shinobu and Obanai when he breaks free. As he rushes to Nezuko's side, Giyu prevents Obanai from intervening. Unable to physically restrain Nezuko, Tanjiro calls out to her. Nezuko finds herself back in the snowy forest where she first transformed, facing Giyu's judgment. Memories of her family flood back, along with Urokodaki's message to protect humans. Tanjiro appears before her, reaffirming their duty to safeguard humanity. Nezuko resists the urge to attack, turning away from Sanemi's blood. The master, unable to see, inquires about the situation. Learning that Nezuko rejected temptation and restrained herself despite being wounded, he is pleased with her resolve. Obanai questions Giyu's actions. The master addresses Tanjiro, urging him to prove Nezuko's worth by defeating a 12 Kizuki demon. Tanjiro vows to succeed, though the master advises starting with smaller challenges. Tanjiro, buoyed by confidence, agrees, to the amusement of Mitsuri and Shinobu. The master emphasizes the importance of the Hashiras and advises Tanjiro to speak respectfully. Tanjiro acknowledges this, and the master requests Sanemi and Obanai to show restraint towards the weaker. They reluctantly agree. Shinobu offers to take the siblings to her home, the Butterfly Mansion. As they leave, Tanjiro asks permission to confront Sanemi again, which is swiftly denied. Muichiro intervenes, throwing pebbles to silence Tanjiro. At the mansion, Tanjiro recognizes Kanao Tsuyuri as the survivor of final selection. The Kakushi inform her of Shinobu's orders, but she remains silent. Another girl directs them inside. Inside, Zenitsu complains about his medication, while Tanjiro reunites with his friends. Zenitsu recounts his ordeal in the forest, and Tanjiro checks on Inosuke, who has lost his voice. As they rest, Tanjiro reflects on their survival and resolves to become stronger. Nezuko falls asleep, and Tanjiro vows to restore her humanity. At a headquarters meeting, Master Kagaya Ubuyashiki and the Hashira discuss the increasing threat of demons sparked by recent incidents. Sanemi criticizes the declining skills of demon slayers, while Tengen lightens the mood with a joke about Tanjiro's prowess. Shinobu highlights the challenge of unifying a growing population against demons, and Guillaume stresses the importance of recruiting only those with genuine resolve. Kyojuro suggests that Tanjiro's swift encounter with a 12 Kizuki indicates exceptional potential. Kagaya notes Muzan's absence from Mount Natagumo and his diversionary tactics. Despite frustrations, Kagaya expresses confidence in the Hashira, considering them the strongest in ages, and addresses them as his children. Privately, Kagaya vows to defeat Muzan, determined to ensure their success. As Kyojuro Rengoku gets ready for a mission, he shares information with Shinobu about a demon that's been defeating demon slayers sent after it. With the core losing members, they can't just stand by. Shinobu ponders if it might be one of the 12 Kizuki, and Kyojuro suggests it could even be an upper rank. She acknowledges the mission's difficulty, but trusts in Kyojuro's abilities. Kyojuro then asks Shinobu about her plans regarding Tanjiro, mentioning her interest in having more Tsugukos. Shinobu jokingly assures him she won't gobble him up. They share a laugh before Kyojuro heads out, and Shinobu reminds him to be careful. In the Butterfly Mansion, Zenitsu grumbles about his medicine, but Aoi insists he takes it due to his severe injuries. Tanjiro thanks her for the medicine, finding it surprisingly pleasant. Zenitsu accuses Aoi of favoritism, but Tanjiro calms the situation. Later, Murata arrives, and they chat. He recounts the Hashira meeting's tension and his unease around them. When Shinobu appears, Murata hastily leaves. Shinobu checks on Tanjiro's recovery and assigns him rehabilitation training with Inosuke. 2 weeks later, Zenitsu, recovered, joins them reluctantly. During training, Zenitsu, Tanjiro, and Inosuke struggle. Kanao outperforms them consistently. Tanjiro is advised to maintain total concentration breathing constantly. As days pass, Inosuke and Zenitsu skip training. Tanjiro persists, striving to master total concentration breathing. Shinobu encourages him, expressing her trust in him to protect Nezuko. Tanjiro senses Shinobu's hidden anger, which she reveals, along with her sister's tragic fate and her struggle with demons. She entrusts Tanjiro with Nezuko's safety, finding solace in his empathy. Shocked by Shinobu's story, Tanjiro resolves to push himself harder, fueled by his determination to protect Nezuko and honor his family's memory. To maintain total concentration, Tanjiro seeks aid from the mansion's 3 helpers, Naho, Kyo, and Sumi. He equips the girls with carpet beaters and instructs them to wake him if he falters in his breathing technique while asleep. The girls consent. Later that night, they observe Tanjiro in bed, still sustaining total concentration. However, as he starts snoring, they eagerly rouse him with the beaters, startling him. Under Zenitsu's watch, Tanjiro endeavors to uphold total concentration anew, initially succeeding while asleep, yet reverting to snoring, prompting the girls to rouse him again as instructed, leading him to seek another attempt. In the morning, Aoi is disheartened to find Tanjiro alone in training. He apologizes, mentioning he invited his friends, but she brushes off his concern. He persists in training, feeling himself adapt to maintaining total concentration. Despite struggling to sustain it without pushing himself, Tanjiro manages to prolong it due to enhanced stamina. The following day, during rigorous full-body training with Kanao, He manages to keep pace with her, surprising her. However, his attempt to grasp her hand fails as she evades, though she's astonished by his ability to match her. At day's end, Tanjiro expresses gratitude to Aoi, but she averts her gaze discontentedly. Zenitsu and Inosuke eavesdrop, but decline further training, with Aoi expressing her reluctance to involve herself. Training with a small gourd, encouraged by Naho, Sumi, and Kyo, Tanjiro successfully shatters it with his breath, astonishing them. With only the large gourd remaining, he celebrates with the girls, thanking them. Unseen by them, Zenitsu and Inosuke observe, with Zenitsu astounded by his friend's newfound strength. The next morning, Zenitsu finds Tanjiro already training, while Inosuke remains asleep, prompting Zenitsu to lament his lack of perseverance. Beside him, Inosuke awakens and mutters, "Come on, Monitsu." The two seek advice from Shinobu, who explains Tanjiro's training as total concentration constant, which can greatly enhance stamina if maintained throughout the day. She urges them to attempt it, but they collapse from exhaustion, deeming it impossible. Tanjiro reveals he can only sustain it through pushing himself, describing his lung-strengthening process in simple terms, confusing the two. Shinobu appears, chiding them for their struggle, but motivates them differently. She challenges Inosuke, sparking his determination, and encourages Zenitsu, lifting his spirits. Outside, Zenitsu and Inosuke mimic Tanjiro's exercises, observed by Kanao. Shinobu urges Kanao to join, but she declines, opting to reflect. At a well, Kanao reminisces about her traumatic past as a poverty-stricken girl, enduring abuse and despair until rescued by Shinobu and her sister Kanai. They liberated her from slavery, but Kanao remained emotionally numb until nurtured at the Butterfly Mansion. Shinobu expresses her frustration about the girl's inability to make decisions, noting that she doesn't even eat until told to, despite the possibility of starvation. Kanei, however, advises her not to act so angrily, saying she enjoys seeing her smile, much to Shinobu's annoyance. Shinobu emphasizes the danger of a child who can't think for herself. In an attempt to help, Kanai gives Kanao a coin to aid in decision-making. Shinobu is irritated by what seems like an illogical solution, but Connie insists she's doing it because Kanao is adorable, irritating Shinobu further. Nevertheless, Shinobu believes that given the chance, a person's soul will eventually open up. She tells Kanao that if she ever falls in love, she can change too. Kanao contemplates the coin and watches the trio train, particularly focusing on Tanjiro. Ultimately, she chooses not to join them and walks away, allowing them to continue training. Soon after, Tanjiro receives a message from his Kasagai crow, informing him that their new swords have arrived. He finds Inosuke and shares the news. While sensing Haganazuka's presence, Tanjiro heads outside to greet him, accompanied by another person. However, Haganazuka is less than pleased to see Tanjiro, blaming him for breaking his blade. Despite Tanjiro's defense about being close to death due to a powerful demon, Haganazuka accuses him solely, chasing him in the mansion's yard. Inside, Tanjiro learns from the second smith about Haganazuka's passion for his creations. Outside, Tanjiro watches as Inosuke damages his new swords with a stone, enraging the smith. That night, Tanjiro successfully maintains total concentration while sleeping. The girls commend his progress and plan to treat him to rice balls upon waking. Tanjiro faces Kanao again in training, exhibiting improved skills. Despite initially being neck and neck, Tanjiro wins both the full-body exercise and reflexes test. However, he decides against splashing Kanao with unpleasant liquid, instead placing the cup on her head. Sumi, Naho, and Kyo celebrate his success, motivating Zenitsu and Inosuke. Later, Shinobu confirms Tanjiro's full recovery and readiness for missions. Tanjiro seeks information about Hinokami Kagura and fire breathing from Shinobu, but finds she knows nothing. She suggests consulting the Flame Hashira, who is away on a mission. Before leaving, Shinobu expresses her high expectations for Tanjiro. Later, Tanjiro confides in Nezuko about his unease and goals. Nezuko, though still asleep, encourages him, boosting his spirits. Meanwhile, aboard a moving train, a woman falls victim to a giant three-eyed demon. Tanjiro and Kanao find themselves in a tense match during the reflexes test, impressing Zenitsu and Inosuke with their remarkable speed. Kanao narrowly wins by grabbing her cup before Tanjiro can block it. Aoi announces the end of the test, and Tanjiro compliments Kanao on her agility. Aoi informs Tanjiro that he now has 10 wins and 10 losses. Despite this, Tanjiro expresses his determination to continue training and asks his friends to join him in practicing total concentration while running, to which Zenitsu hesitates, but Inosuke eagerly agrees. Months earlier, in a strange space with many rooms, Lower 6 finds himself summoned along with other lower ranks by the sound of a biwa. They are greeted by a powerful demon woman and Muzan Kibutsuji, who is disguised. Muzan criticizes the lower ranks for their weakness and demands to know why they haven't improved. Lower 6 sarcastically thinks about Muzan's words, only for Muzan to catch on and demand he speak openly. When Lower 6 hesitates, Muzan brutally kills him, shocking the others. Muzan questions the loyalty of the remaining demons and kills them one by one, stating that only the upper ranks should exist. Lower 1 expresses gratitude for being chosen by Muzan, even as he is fatally wounded by Muzan's blood. Muzan instructs him to kill the Hashira, promising more power if he succeeds. With a flick of his arm, Muzan sends Lower 1 to the surface to fulfill his orders, fueled by the desire to acquire more blood and kill Tanjiro. In the early hours, Tanjiro's Kasagai Crow awakens the trio with news of their new mission. They learn that the casualties from the Mugen train are rising, with 40 people now missing. They're instructed to join Kyojuro Rengoku on site and head west. Later, Kagaya Ubuyashiki discusses with Shinobu his decision to send Tanjiro and his companions on this mission, a recommendation made by Shinobu herself. Shinobu attributes her recommendation to Tanjiro's pure soul and his consistent hard work, which exceeded her expectations. She emphasizes his clear goal of defeating Muzan Kibutsuji. Kagaya agrees with Shinobu's reasoning and also reflects on Tanjiro's potential guidance under Kyojuro, given his father's fire-breathing style. Considering Tanjiro's sister's transformation into a demon and his encounters with Muzan, Kagaya ponders whether Tanjiro's destiny is to defeat him. As Tanjiro prepares to depart, he encounters a tall young man from the final selection, who now appears much stronger. Despite initially feeling dismayed by the young man's aggression, Tanjiro recognizes him and tries to communicate, but the young man ignores him. Outside, Tanjiro informs Aoi about his upcoming mission, expressing gratitude for her support. Aoi, however, attributes her survival to luck and expresses regret over her inability to fight alongside them. Tanjiro reassures her, expressing his intention to carry her emotions with him into battle. Tanjiro then encounters Kanao, thanking her for her help during his rehabilitation. Kanao, initially silent, explains that she simply followed orders and bids him farewell. She reveals her coin-flipping method for decision-making, indicating her lack of personal attachment to matters. In an attempt to help Kanao, Tanjiro takes her coin and proposes a decision-making method involving the coin flip. After a tense moment, the coin lands in Kanao's favor, and Tanjiro encourages her to listen to her heart. He bids her farewell, leaving her contemplative. Later, Tanjiro, accompanied by his companions, successfully completes a final test, showcasing their mastery of total concentration, constant. As they are cheered on by the girls, Giyu Tomioka appears and praises their progress. Tanjiro expresses gratitude for Giyu's efforts to help Nezuko, to which Giyu responds by urging him to continue killing demons. As they prepare to depart, Tanjiro notices the girls' sadness, prompting emotional farewells. Zenitsu's reaction surprises the girls, and Tanjiro takes the lead as they embark on their mission. At the train station, the Mugen train, their mission's location, comes into view. Inosuke marvels at the sight, mistaking the train for a powerful creature, while Zenitsu corrects him, explaining it's just a train. Inosuke, eager to attack, is stopped by Tanjiro, who mistakenly believes the train is a guardian spirit. Zenitsu, frustrated, clarifies that it's simply a means of transportation for people, teasing Tanjiro for his ignorance. Inosuke impulsively headbutts the train, attracting the attention of the police, who try to arrest them for carrying swords. After evading capture, Zenitsu explains that the Demon Slayer Corps operates discreetly, unrecognized by the government, so they must conceal their weapons. Tanjiro and Zenitsu lament their unrecognized efforts, deciding to hide their swords, although Inosuke struggles due to his lack of clothing. As the train starts moving, they chase and board it, with Zenitsu needing help to catch up. Inosuke is amazed by the train's speed, while Zenitsu questions Tanjiro's decision to bring Nezuko, fearing for her safety outside the Corps' headquarters. Tanjiro reassures him, expressing his determination to always protect Nezuko. They reflect on their journey together as they embark on the train, unaware that they're accompanied by powerful adversaries.